to a senator who says there's only one thing his colleagues should be doing, finding Americans jobs. Rob Portman out with a plan to do just that. Senator, good to have you back. What's this about?
Neil, thanks for having me on. It's actually a Republican Senate plan, and I call it kind of the governing blueprint. It's not just a blueprint for jobs. It's saying, look, if you give us the majority, we'll actually begin to implement some of this. It is regulatory relief. I just got back from a hearing on permitting reform, for instance. Unbelievable how hard it is to permit something in this country, and a lot of investments going overseas as a result. But it's also tax reform that's pro-growth. It gets at this international competition we have on taxes, that we're losing jobs and capital overseas right now. It also talks about energy and the need for us to develop our resources right here at home. It talks about the need for us to approve the Keystone Pipeline, for instance, which would be a great job creator, also lowering energy costs. And it talks about healthcare cost increases. It talks about trade, the need for us to get in the business of exporting again, so we're sending more of our products that our workers and our farmers make overseas. These are things that can and should be done, and it turns out the House has passed a lot of legislation that would fit under these 7 principles. So we're trying to push it forward. I happen to have fresh off the press here a copy of it, but it's a Republican Senate plan. If you want to check it out, go to portman.senate.gov.
You know what I worry about, Senator? I mean, regardless of what viewers think about this plan or what you're coming up with, or what they think about Democrats and what they were debating last night all night on climate change, I would think the issue of jobs is a more front and center immediate concern than climate change, whatever people's views are on climate change, because that is a very, very pressing immediate threat to us.
Look, it is, and if you look at the last 3 months, the jobs were disappointing. The jobs report last month, Neil, you probably have commented on this, we actually had fewer people getting new jobs than we had people entering the ranks of the long-term unemployed. That's over 27 weeks. So things are not going well. We have labor force participation that you and I have talked about at record levels for men. Back to the 1940s when we started keeping statistics on this. For all Americans, it's back to the 1970s. We've got a real problem, not just in creating jobs, but in creating good jobs, because you've also seen working families see their paychecks go down as their health care costs go up, and that's that middle-class squeeze. The number is about $4,000 on average over the last 4 years of paychecks going down, not up. So we've got a real problem here, and if we don't address it, we can't address so many of the other issues that we do care about, because ultimately a job is the best antidote to poverty, the best way to get our country back on track.
All right, now we just had these enrollment numbers released. They're a little disappointing, we're told, because February was a shorter month. I averaged it out. Even if you allowed for 3 more days, it would still be less than the number of enrollees we had in January. But that the young percentage is still very low at around 27%. It should really be at 40% to make this thing potentially cost productive. What do you think?
Yeah, one of the great disappointments that the Obama administration is experiencing is that the number of young people signing up who are healthier and able to pay for the health care of older folks is not happening. What does that mean? It means everybody's premiums are going to go up even further. So I think you'll see costs as you work through the next few months here, and we begin to get some more transparency on costs, going up even higher than some have projected. It's a huge problem. We also have found out that it turns out a lot of folks who are uninsured are not getting help. So the percentage of those people who are getting into these plans, as I'm sure you've heard, is only about a third or less of people who are uninsured. The rest are people that already had health care insurance.
Yeah, they're the ones we upended this whole thing for. So it's a kick in the fanny.
And then finally, the Congressional Budget Office has told us there'll be 30 million Americans uninsured after 10 years of implementation of this legislation. In other words, after the $1 trillion in new taxes, after all the fury and all the regulations and the cost of Medicare and so on, you're still talking 19 new taxes. You're still talking 30 million Americans uninsured. So it doesn't seem like it's working by its own metrics.
Senator, good seeing you again.
Neil, as always, thanks for having me on.